clay has the ability to respond to the organism, but he said mankind is not smart enough to ever figure out all the reasons and the ways that clay can work. Now, there's some theories, and I'll share with those. He said, for those people who won't use clay until they have total scientific evidence, he said they will never benefit because mankind is not smart enough. But there are some reasons. The clay has a negative electronic charge. Most free radicals, heavy metals, toxins, poisons have a positive charge. Because opposites attract, the clay then has the ability to pull out toxins, poisons, heavy metal, but it doesn't pull out the beneficial vitamins, minerals, nutrients.
From the Weston A. Price Foundation, welcome to the Wise Traditions podcast for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. We are your source for scientific knowledge and traditional wisdom to help you achieve optimal health. And now here is our host and producer, Hilda Labrada Gore.
Hey, Hilda here. What if I were to tell you that there was a single, simple remedy for arthritis, acne, colitis, digestive issues, celiacs, and more? You might think it was hyperbole at first, but our guest today insists that this natural remedy exists and has very special properties that work with a wide range of conditions. This is episode 541, and our guest today is Neal Bosshardt. Neal is a speaker and the author of We Eat Clay and Wear It Too. Today, Neal tells story after story of healings using clay. He offers the science behind why clay, taken externally or internally, helps with many, many conditions. He also talks about how he overcame his initial skepticism to now become an educator about the wonders and the curative properties of clay. Before we get into the conversation, I want to invite you to the Wise Traditions Conference in October, the 17th to the 19th in Salt Lake City, Utah this fall. We would love to see you there. Neal's going to be there along with Sally Fallon-Morell, Tom Cowan, Odette Wilkins, who was on last week's podcast. Join us. Why don't you? This is the conference that nourishes in every way. So yes, there'll be wonderful speakers, but also wonderful foods, all Wise Traditions friendly. It's the best. We love it so much. So join us. Go to wisetraditions.org to register today and do so before the early bird deadline expires, which is August 31st. Again, that's wisetraditions.org to register today. Hope to see you in Salt Lake City. This is Hilda Labrada Gore, and you're listening to Wise Traditions. Welcome to Wise Traditions, Neal.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. I'm tickled.
It's about time we had you on. You are a clay expert extraordinaire. And as we start to dive into this subject, I want to ask you to start us off, kick things off here with a story. You were telling me earlier about a little 4-year-old girl and a horrible accident that she had in her kitchen. What happened and how was clay a part of this story?
Okay. You asked me to tell you a favorite story. It's hard for me to pick out a favorite, but this certainly is a significant one. So many years ago, our secretary's little 4-year-old daughter one night put her hand on a stove right after it had been turned off. Heidi had actually turned off the stove, took the pan, headed for the table. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw her little girl pushing a stool over toward the stove. So she knew what was going to happen if she didn't get there. Well, she was running back. She got there, but this little girl scrambling up onto the stool, put her hand on the stove to pull herself up onto the stool. Her mother got there in time to grab her wrist, pull it back. Not in time. Every ring of the hot plate left a blistered line across the fingers and the palm. But on the heel of the hand where the little girl had put the most weight, pulling herself up onto the stool, the flesh came off from the hand and was stuck on her smooth top range. So the mom grabs this little girl who is instantly screaming in pain, stepped to the sink and put it under the faucet, because even with clay, you want to run water on it for a few minutes to get the burnout.
Right.
And then they got the clay. They buried that whole hand in clay, just buried the whole hand in clay. And then she sat down in a rocking chair with this little 4-year-old girl who's just screaming her lungs out. Her little girl was asleep in her arms within 15 minutes. Not just had quit crying, was asleep. So mom gets up and takes a bread sack and slides a bread sack over the hand and up the arm, because on a burn, you don't want clay to dry at all. and a plastic bag will do that. And then she took her little 4-year-old girl, who's now asleep, laid her in her bed. That little girl slept through the night, in spite of the fact that after she's in bed, her mom took a spatula, scraped her flesh off from the stove, and threw it in the garbage can. Little girl slept through the night, pain-free, comes to her mom the next day asking if they can take the bag off the hand. She was oblivious to the fact that she had been burned. Mom says, no, you have to leave that on there today.
Yeah.
After breakfast, she saw her little girl riding her bicycle, her little bike trike, out on the driveway with both hands on the handlebars, one inside a plastic bag full of clay.
Oh, my goodness.
That night, now this little girl, she said, her secretary, she told me this little girl was playing with her friends in and out of the house. That night, 24 hours after the accident, the mom couldn't stand it anymore. She said, I had to see that hand. She took her in the bathroom, took the plastic bag off, washed the hand, never did another thing to it because it looked so good. And I saw that hand 2 days later. Her daycare fell through. She brought this cute little 4-year-old to work. And I'd heard the story, so I said, let me see this hand. She sticks her hand out, no lines, no blisters, nothing except on the heel of the hand, there was a line of pink skin. No scab, no scar, pink skin.
Oh, my goodness.
Now,
and how did she know to use clay?
Because she was our secretary, and at that time, I worked for a company who had a clay product.
But your introduction to clay, as I understand it, Neal, was when you read that book, Our Earth, Our Cure. Tell us a little bit about that.
So back in the it starts even before that.
Okay.
Back in the early 1900s, 1930s, my grandfather bought a farm just north of Redmond, Utah, and he bought it as a farm. But on the edge of this farm, there was a deposit of this white mineral. Basically, it was a bentonite, a clay bentonite product. And he was selling it as a pond liner because you could take this clay and you could put a 2-inch layer in the bottom of a pond and it wouldn't leak. When this clay got wet, it would form a gel like mayonnaise or mustard. And then water couldn't pass through it. And so Grandpa was selling the clay as a pond liner for many years, up until the 1970s when the health food people came to us with that book, Our Earth, Our Cure by Raymond Dextrate, asking if our clay that Grandpa was selling to line ponds would do what the French clay would do. Well, we looked at that book and we laughed for 3 days.
Really?
Hilda, I'm not kidding. This nut, and if I meet the author, Raymond Dextrate, in heaven, I will apologize because we thought he was a quack. He said that there's certain clays that have medicinal properties. Now, there's as many types of clays as there are breeds of dog.
Wow.
And some clays have medicinal properties and some don't. And he said if you found a clay with a medicinal property, it would bring the body into balance. It would respond to the organism. It would do one thing for you, but something else for me, and bring the body into balance. Well, these health food stores that had this book, they wanted to know if our clay would do what the French clay was doing. We didn't know.
No.
We had never eaten it. And these people, they wanted to eat it. Because,
and you're like, wait, this is a pond liner.
Yes, this is dirt. And so we wouldn't even sell it to them. We said, no, it's not for sale. Not if you're going to eat it. And I called the Food and Drug in Denver and I said, there's some crazy nuts over here that want to eat our dirt. What should we be concerned about? Well, they gave me a list. Lead, mercury, arsenic, beryllium, chromium, streptococcus, staphylococcus. We had an analyze for everything the guy at the FDA said might be a concern, and it came back inert. He said it's harmless. It won't hurt a soul. And so we then, through a series of events, began to use it. We offered it for sale. We took some of our clay, pulverized it real fine, made it like a fine white powder. That's what some of the French clay was, a fine powder. So we made our clay, which was a fine white powder, and offered it for sale. A couple of people might have bought some, but as our family then had medical issues that conventional medicine couldn't fix, then we tried our clay as directed by Raymond Dextrate's book, and it worked. And
what were the concerns that your family had?
Well, the first one, there was somebody in the family who she was pregnant, and due to the iron in the prenatal vitamins, this poor gal was having one bowel movement every week or 10 days.
Oh, no.
That's not healthy for either mother or baby.
Mm-mm.
And she tried through diet. She tried through diet to, get her bowels to work, and nothing. And so finally she tried the clay. And within 3 days of drinking the clay every day as directed by the book, in 3 days, her bowels she was having daily, gentle, easy bowel movements.
Wow.
That was the first one. Then the next one was our grandmother's neighbor. She had diarrhea so bad it would be down both legs and in her shoes before she could even get out of the church or the post office or the grocery store to go home. Within a week, that little lady came to our office and hugged me like I was her grandson. And this was 50 years ago. I looked like a grandson. Now I look like the grandfather. But she hugged me and thanked me for this product. She said, "You don't know how good it is to go out in public again without fear of embarrassment. You gave me my life back." And I said, "No, I didn't. This is not our creation. Don't thank me. Thank Heavenly Father. This is His creation. We were just blessed to learn about it." And with tears in her eyes, she just sobbed and said, "You don't know how good it is to go out in public again without fear of embarrassment." So we thought, well, Raymond Dextrate, he said it would bring the body into balance. It would do one thing for you, something else for you. And that's what it did.
Yes. I mean, I'm astounded that it can both help heal or cure, if we could even dare say that nowadays. But anyway, help remedy diarrhea and constipation. So I did look at the handbook you wrote some years ago called, We Eat Clay and Wear It Too. And it seems to me, Neal, that this is a remedy, it seems, from God and from nature that can help both internally and externally. Everything from acne to diverculitis to menstrual cramps to colitis to celiac disease. Let's go back for a second and talk about the properties of clay that do make it medicinal.
Wow, there are some that we understand. Raymond Dextrate, in his book, he says that clay has the ability to respond to the organism, but he said mankind is not smart enough to ever figure out all the reasons and the ways that clay can work. Now, there's some theories, and I'll share with those. But he said, for those people who won't use clay until they have total scientific evidence, he said they will never benefit because mankind is not smart enough. But there are some reasons. The clay has a negative electronic charge. Most free radicals, heavy metals, toxins, poisons have a positive charge. Because opposites attract, the clay then has the ability to pull out toxins, poisons, heavy metal, but it doesn't pull out the beneficial vitamins, minerals, nutrients. Mm-hmm. So that's one, is the electronic charge, and it makes total sense. Another is the clay is very alkaline. Most of us are too acidic because of our diets, our lifestyles. We are too acidic. And so the clay being very alkaline helps us become not so acidic, more alkaline. So that's a reason. Another is the clay has some 70 trace minerals in a form that the body can assimilate and use those that are beneficial. And so with these broad the spectrum of minerals, some people take the clay daily as a mineral supplement. And so minerals, alkalinity, and electronic charge are three of the aspects of clay that makes sense as to why does the good that it does.
Well, so what year was this man's book written, the Earth Our Cure, or Our Earth Our Cure?
It was written in the early 1950s. It was translated in English in 1974 and brought to us in 1975.
So I'm just trying to figure out, the wheels are turning here, Neal. I'm trying to figure out if clay has been used for thousands of years, as he says in his book, and as I understand it, and if it is so beneficial in ways in which we can't even understand, why hasn't it been promoted or endorsed by more people, or at least mainstream medicine?
Because of mainstream medicine. It's because of money. There is no way you can patent clay, and there is no way that any company is ever going to invest the millions of dollars necessary to get FDA endorsement or AMA approval. Nobody's going to spend those millions of dollars unless they can patent it and then recoup their investment by selling it at high prices to recoup their investment. Mm-hmm. And so since it's a natural product, nobody's willing to invest that money with no hope of ever recouping it.
And it's true, you can't patent anything that's found in nature. You can only patent something that you invent in a lab or something like that, right?
Right. There's evidence that Hippocrates used clay. Gandhi used clay. During World War I, soldiers on both sides of the conflict were issued clay as part of their rations.
Really?
Yes. And those regiments that had clay in their rations, they weren't devastated with the dysentery that other regiments were devastated with. So yeah, there's way too much evidence, historical evidence. Nobody can go back. Nobody can ever come up and say, "Hey, I invented clay and and how it works."
Right. So yeah, there's much historical evidence, and then of course there are all the stories you hear of people who have taken to heart your PDF or this book, Our Earth, Our Cure. And so let's talk a little bit about how, if we wanted to adopt it as part of our health regimen, how we might begin.
Sure. And one thing that is, and of course, and this is one of the reasons why the FDA, doesn't want people to use clay. As I said, there's as many kinds of clays as there are breeds of dogs. And some clays have medicinal properties and some don't. And the you don't know. There's no test to determine, which clay is effective, which isn't. And so because of that, you can't just go out on the market and say, "Hey, I'm looking for clay." I mean, a lot of people have clay in their backyards, their gardens. Mm-hmm. You can say, "Hey, my garden has clay soil. Should I eat it?" No, don't do that. So the clays that work generally, it's more of a purified bentonite type clay, also known as montmorillonite. Mm-hmm. It's a mineral that has certain properties. When this mineral was discovered in Montmoril, France, it was called montmorillonite. When the same or similar material was found in Fort Benton, Montana, it was called bentonite. But there are variations in bentonites. Some bentonites work, some bentonites don't. So what to do, or how to get started, would be to find a bentonite that either someone else is using with success, and try it. But you've got to be careful there too, because nobody's spent the millions of dollars for the research and the information that's out there. A lot of it is not very accurate. There's a lot of inaccuracies. We use the clay for a bath. It's amazing. This is a fun story. A lady in St. George, Utah, she had a case of shingles earlier in her life that had left a lot of nerve damage. And in her later years, she was troubled with pain, constant pain. Pain all day, pain all night. She said she was miserable 24/7, and she felt like if she could detoxify, that she would feel better, that it would improve her quality of life. Well, she didn't have access to a tub, so she just soaked her feet. She did a foot soak. And that's simple. I mean, all you need is just a little plastic tub or bucket that's big enough to hold your feet. Use water hot as you can stand, deep enough to cover your ankles, and only 2 tablespoons of clay.
Coming up, Neal describes the incredible health benefits that this woman experienced after soaking her feet in clay and water. And he reviews how to begin experiencing the benefits of clay yourself.
You're listening to the Wise Traditions podcast from the Weston A. Price Foundation. We pause now to recognize our sponsors.
Masa Chips, Ancient Crunch. Did you know that all chips and fries used to be cooked in tallow up until the 1990s, when corporations switched to cheap processed seed oils? Today, seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories, and recent studies have linked seed oils to metabolic health issues and inflammation in the entire body. Masa decided to do something about this. They created a tasty and delicious tortilla chip with just 3 ingredients and no seed oils. It's got organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. These chips don't only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible too. Masa is crunchier, tastier, and sturdier than other chips, so they don't break in your guac. Snacking on masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic, with no crash, bloat, or gross, sluggish feeling afterwards. And an added bonus is that the beef tallow makes the chips much more satiating. So you won't find yourself kind of uncontrollably binging and still feeling hungry. Masa chips are beloved by 10,000s of customers, and they have been endorsed by industry-leading health and nutrition experts like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka. Are you ready to give masa a try? Go to masachips.com/wisetraditions and use the code WISETRADITIONS for 25% off your first order. Again, that's masachips.com/wisetraditions and the code WISETRADITIONS for 25% off your first order. And the new biology clinic. Modern healthcare systems are failing us. You know it as well as I do. You can wait months for an appointment with a doctor only to spend 10 minutes with them in person. And then you get a generic diagnosis that can lead to medication dependency, unwanted or unwarranted invasive treatment options, and unpleasant or harmful side effects with no real cure in sight. If this sounds all too familiar, you've got to consider a different approach with the New Biology Clinic. Founded by Dr. Tom Cowan, who is a respected alternative medicine doctor, author, and speaker, Dr. Cowan's holistic perspective on health and wellness and the true nature of health and disease, it sets this clinic apart. At the New Biology Clinic, it's not about quick fixes. The wellness specialist takes time to understand your unique story, recognizing that illnesses have various causes and you deserve a personalized healing experience. Clinic members enjoy a flat monthly fee that includes a range of valuable services like virtual health consults as needed, wellness specialist-led live streams on diverse health topics, access to a members-only resource library, and multiple live group sessions every month. These sessions, by the way, cover everything from fitness to breathing integration, biofield tuning, guided meditation, EFT tapping, and more. And there are membership options, so you can join as an individual, a small or a large family. You can use this for pet health and enrichment only, and even one-time health consults without a membership commitment. Unlike traditional healthcare that thrives on frequent visits, prescriptions, and treatments, the New Biology Clinic, its motivation really is to find the root cause of illness, support your personal healing journey, and to keep you healthy. So go to newbiologyclinic.com to learn more. Or you can reach out to their friendly care team via phone or email. Whatever you do, use the code WISETRADITIONS to get $100 off your membership activation fee. Or use the code WAPF to get your first month free on an enrichment-only services plan. Whatever you do, again, the codes must be in all capital letters. So you can go to the newbiologyclinic.com to learn more, or reach out to their friendly care team via phone or email, and use the code WISETRADITIONS in all caps to get $100 off your membership activation fee, or use the code WAPF, again in all caps, to get your first month free on an enrichment services only membership. Your journey to genuine healing begins here. This is Hilda Labrada Gore, and you're listening to Wise Traditions.
So she soaked her feet, did a foot soak, and just within a few days, she called me as excited as a kid on Christmas morning. She said, I'm sleeping through the night. I'm pain-free. I haven't felt this good for 10 years. Would you send me some literature that I can share with my friends here in the trailer park where she lived, and we did. She called back a few days later and said, I've been talking to a neighbor. Would you send her some literature? And we did. She called and said, I've been talking to a friend in California. Would you send her literature? And we did. And then I'm talking to a friend in Oregon. Send her literature. And we did. I mean, that went on and on forever, it seemed. And then one day, the receptionist on the intercom said, Neal, June Rowley's on the phone. That was this lady's name. And to be funny, I just picked up the phone. I didn't say hello. I said, June, who are we going to mail it to today?
Oh my gosh.
And she said, what happens if you put clay on plants? And I thought, on plants? Where's this coming from? And I said, oh, it's good for them. I said, yeah, you can make a foliar spray, use it a foliar spray, you can stir it in the soil. It'll mineralize your plants just like it mineralizes our bodies. And in a tearful voice, almost in tears, she began to sob and said, oh, I should have known better. I should have known better. And I'm bewildered.
Yeah.
And I said, June, what's going on? And she said, well, here in St. George, Utah, where I live, it's a kind of a desert, and we're told to conserve water. And so as I began to soak my feet, I thought, well, what can I do to use the water? And she said, I came up with a really good idea. I thought, I decided to use it to water my houseplants. And all of my friends, when I would tell them about soaking their feet to detoxify, use the water on your houseplants. She said, I was talking to one of my friends today and told her that every plant in my house has died except for one. And no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Every plant in my house has died and except for one. And her friend said, well, mine aren't dead, but they're looking really sick. So we decided there's something lethal in that clay to plants. And I said, no, there isn't. And now you know what you did, don't you? She said, yes, all of the toxins that it pulled out of us were in that water. There's a guy in Hawaii who killed a section of his lawn from the water after soaking his feet.
Oh my goodness. And just think of it's doing that to the plants, what it must have been doing to her and to so many people on the inside.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to them. Wow.
Yeah. Now,
well, so I know you have so much to share, Neal. I want to ask though, okay, so you said, let's say we find a good source of clay. That's step one. Step two, should we take it internally or externally? Should we do a foot soak, or can you actually drink some clay water solution?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. To use the clay. Now, I would, not just my book. I mean, my book is the We Eat Clay and Wear It Too. And I sell those as, on request.
Yes.
I have a website. My website is weeatclay.com. And that's probably where you got your PDF copy of the book. So I would get some instructions from someplace who's used the clay. Yes, you can take the clay internally. We take Dextrate. We followed Dextrate's rules in our Earth I Cure. We followed his rules somewhat. A lot of his rules we found weren't hard, fast rules, but he said to take a teaspoon of clay in a glass of water. And so that's what you do if you've got intestinal issues. It's 1 teaspoon of clay in a glass of water. I suggest 8 to 10 ounces of water. And you can either stir it in the water and drink the whole muddy mess, or you can actually stir it in water, set it aside for a few hours, come back. And in fact, I'll show you mine. This is mine, and that's about 12 ounces of water, and that's a teaspoon of clay in the bottom. Now, that looks like more than a teaspoon.
Totally.
Because the clay swelled. When I put the teaspoon in there, it looked like a teaspoon in the bottom. But because the clay swells, then it looks a lot more. And at this point, the minerals have dissolved into the water, the sediments on the bottom. I have 2 choices. I could drink the clear water off the top and throw the sediment away, or I could shake it up and drink the whole thing. The benefits are the same either way. And you can do that once a day, twice a day, once a week, twice a week. Some people will do it daily as a detox. Other people will do it occasionally as a mineral supplement. And some people will just do it as needed if they have heartburn, hiatal hernias, other issues. But that's how you take it internally.
Wow. And I guess it's good also for people, like you said, to find a reliable guide or maybe a health practitioner who can guide them, because I suppose there might be some negative results from using clay, or some dangers, some precautions?
Very, very few. If you're using a good clay, the clay that we have used for 50 years, in 50 years, we have never seen a negative reaction. We have never seen an allergic reaction or a negative side effect at all. The worst thing that we've ever seen happen is nothing. Now, you can take too much. If you take too much clay, your body reacts opposite of when you take too much vitamin C. Take too much vitamin C, what happens? Diarrhea.
I don't know, actually. What happens?
Diarrhea.
Oh.
Yeah. If you take too much vitamin C, your body lets you know you've got too much vitamin C by giving you diarrhea. Clay, if you take too much clay and are not drinking enough water, then it can cause constipation, which is ironic because if you're constipated, you take the clay to stimulate your bowels to work. But yeah, we've never seen a negative side effect, never seen an allergic reaction.
Wow. And so you've talked a little bit about what to do if we want to take it internally. What about externally? You started with the story of the little girl with the hand burn, but let's say there's someone suffering with arthritis. Can they put some kind of poultice on their knees? What do you recommend there?
You bet. What I recommend, I'll show you. I recommend that everybody have a quart mason jar of the clay gel in their kitchen cupboard. And to make this, this is what lives in our kitchen cupboard. A glass jar, plastic lid. And I don't know if you can see that. It's about like mayonnaise or mustard.
Yeah, it looks like that consistency.
It won't drip. Thick enough it won't drip, but thin enough if we have a grandchild who's got an owie, it spreads very easily on an owie. I don't have to push it. The last thing you want is a child in pain and here grandma or mom is shoving on his owie because the clay is so stiff. So that's what lives in the kitchen cupboard. Now, in my vehicle, I want to have clay.
Okay.
But I don't want a glass bottle rolling around in my vehicle.
No, of course.
So I have this plastic tube, and this plastic tube is, watch how that comes out.
Oh, yeah.
About like mayonnaise or mustard. And so that'll roll around under the seat of my truck, in the trunk of the car, 365 days a year. If we're traveling and we need clay, there it is. So why you want this mixed up in advance, and once you mix it up, it never separates, it never goes bad. But you want it mixed up, just like with the little girl who put her hand on the stove. Gratefully, she didn't have to scream for a longer time while her mother finds some clay and mixes it into a gel to put it on the hand. But externally, you mentioned arthritis. For the first 30 years of using clay, I would tell people to put it on externally as a poultice.
Yes.
So you take the mustard-like mayonnaise or mayonnaise-like gel, put it on the arthritic joint, a nice thick 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch layer, and then cover it to hold it in place. And some will cover it with plastic wrap, some will cover it with fabric, and then leave it on overnight. And I've had people tell me they did it one night and the next day their joint was pain-free. Now, maybe some arthritis pain won't go away overnight, but some has. But I do it every night until the pain's gone. So that's what we told people. And I've had people tell me their arthritic knees were helped, their arthritic hands were helped. But that was for the first 30 years. The last 20 years, I've had more and more people tell me not only do they use it externally, but drinking the clay helps their arthritis.
Amazing. So from the inside out and the outside in.
Exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit, just because we are the Wise Traditions podcast, about the historical medicinal uses of clay? Like, how far back do any writings or records go demonstrating indigenous people from around the world using clay?
Well, a lot of the indigenous people didn't leave records, or at least not that we know of. So how far back it went, we don't know. But here in the Western United States, when the white men came to the West, talking with Indians, yes, clay was part of their regimen. So we know that that would have been in the 1800s.
Right.
The Indians were using it. But like I say, back Socrates, he used clay. Medicinally, you can literally say thousands of years.
Wow.
I don't know if there was a time when clay wasn't used.
Yeah, it's such a simple, natural remedy. And I'm thinking a little bit, Neal, about pregnant women who sometimes have cravings for clay. And I think the doctors called it pica or something, but I don't know that they ever understood why. What is your theory on that?
That it's a mineral imbalance, or that they need those minerals.
Yeah.
And so, they're craving those minerals, and animals do the same thing. You know, there's documentation of parrots in South America who live on a major part of their diet are poisonous berries. But those parrots don't die because another major part of their diet is a clay outcropping. And so the parrots are getting the protection from the poisonous berries in the clay that they eat.
Wow, that's so amazing. Like they instinctively know we can eat these berries as long as we're eating this clay.
Exactly. Another thing, a lot of clay companies, including the one that I used to work for, they sold clay for people. That's what we've been talking about here. But they also sell clay for animals. And the clay that they sell for animals, a lot of it goes into dairies, for dairy cows, because it will condition, improve the digestion of the dairy cow to where the dairy cow doesn't have all the acidosis that they get from, the feed that they get. And many dairymen have told me that if they put out the agricultural grade of clay for their dairy cows, their cows will eat it free choice as needed. And especially heifers, a cow that has just had a calf for the first time, once she drops that calf, has that calf, she will pig out, to use an expression, on the clay for days and days until her body comes back into normal and she gets into her lactation, period. And then she will back off. She'll still eat some of the clay, but she won't just gorge on it like she did, when her body was just trying to get back into its rhythm.
Right.
Animals will free choice on the clay.
Yeah, so interesting. And of course, there's a parallel with us learning about intuitive eating these days. There's a trend of people considering really paying attention and tuning into what their body needs. And that's exactly what these animals are not far removed from, right?
They're smarter than we are, unfortunately.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Now, Neal, what has been the most surprising use of clay that you've ever come across?
The most surprising. That's like asking me, which one of my children is the most outstanding?
Yes, no, well, maybe not most surprising. Tell me some of the surprising ones then.
Some of the surprising. I had a case of diarrhea. I went to Guatemala. I went to Peru years ago as part of a humanitarian trip. And because of knowing of how many people in foreign countries have intestinal issues, then I was drinking the clay every day. I thought, I'll just drink it once a day and I won't have any trouble. On day 3 there in Peru, as I walked into the hotel room that night, I thought I was going to pass some gas. It wasn't gas.
Oh, no.
It was liquid.
Oh.
Yeah. I went into my room. Gratefully, it happened as I was walking into the hotel. I got myself cleaned up, went in, and I drank a glass of clay water. Within the hour, I drank a second glass. My diarrhea continued for, the first half of the night, and I drank a third glass. So I drank 3 glasses probably within 2 to 3 hours. By morning, my bowels were controlled, and by morning, I got on a bus. I was confident enough to get on a bus for a 2-hour bus ride to the top of this mountain to a village.
Wow.
I was grateful for clay. Now, there were other people who they also had trouble that night, and they didn't get on the bus the next morning.
Whoa, okay.
And if I hadn't had clay, no way would I have gotten on a bus for a 2-hour bus ride up to this village where the restroom is a hole in the ground with 2 boards over it.
Oh, gosh.
And I had no more. And then from that point on, I drank clay twice a day.
Right. You might as well. And like you said, the worst it can do is nothing. But in this case, you knew it was kind of shoring up your digestive tract. And so forth.
Right. I mean, in that situation, if you drink too much clay, you can get constipated. Well, that's what I wanted.
Right.
Or at least control.
Right. Bring it on. So, Neal, what do you say to the clay skeptic? You were one once at one time as well. You said when you first came across that book, you guys were laughing for days. So What do you say to the person who's like, oh, that is just dirt. I'm not going to drink dirt. What, are you crazy?
Hey, I don't fault anybody for being skeptical. Because like you say, nobody was more skeptical than me. But I would say, boy, have a more open mind than I had. And it'll bless your life. I had a friend she broke her ankle many years ago, and they had to pin it. It was a bad break. They had to pin the ankle to have it heal, and those pins got infected. And so this lady was going to the wound clinic twice a week for 4 months.
Oh.
To deal with this infection. And all during those 4 months, her sister-in-law was begging her to put, the clay on it. And this lady flat out refused. She said, no way on earth am I putting mud on this infected wound. Well, after 4 months, the wound clinic began to prepare her to be an amputee. They had lost hope.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the infection had gone into the bone. And so they began to talk to her about becoming an amputee and life as an amputee. Well, when they started talking amputation, this gal, Lori, called her sister-in-law, Connie, and said, I'm more open-minded today. I'd like to hear about that mud again. So they packed her foot in clay, a thick layer of clay, half-inch, three-quarter-inch thick layer of clay. The clay, it's not a cream or a lotion. Like you mentioned the word poultice. People need to use, poultice is, half-inch, three-quarter-inch thick, right on the wound, wrapped it with a fabric, and as it dried, it sucked out the infection, and within a week it had made a world of difference. It was night and day. I've got pictures of her wounds the week before she started clay and the week after a week, and then better and better. Long story short, her last email to me said, thanks to the clay, I still have a foot.
Wow.
So for the skeptics, I would say, hey, try it again. Make sure you've got a clay that's safe. If a clay happened to come from an old mining lead and zinc mine, there could be it could have some hazardous minerals in it. But, if you've got a good reputable clay, you're good. Now, I'll mention this because I'll bet a lot of listeners wonder this. On most packages of clay, even the one that I've used for 50 years, the package has a cancer warning on it, Prop 65. It says this product is known to contain a substance known in the state of California to cause reproductive harm, not appropriate for pregnant women and children. That's on the package. I've been eating it for 50 years. We've had 8 children while we've been using that product. Now, I'm not saying the product caused those 8 pregnancies, but it certainly didn't interfere with them. But that warning is on there because there is a tiny trace of lead in most natural clays. What's interesting is that trace of lead is lower than, now in the clay I use, in a good clay, that trace of lead is lower than the allowable level of lead in broccoli, collard greens, and Brussels sprouts.
Oh, so it's lower, and yet it comes with this warning label that you wouldn't find on the broccoli and the Brussels sprouts.
No, because if they put that warning on broccoli and Brussels sprouts, can you imagine how hard it would be to get your children to eat vegetables?
Yeah, well, harder than ever.
Right. And it's only in the state of California.
Right. No, I've heard interesting things recently, especially about Prop 65 and how it can mislead people and alarm them unnecessarily. So we will invite people to check out your website. Obviously, Neal, we're going to have all the details in the episode description. And now I want to pose to you as we wrap up the question I love to pose at the end of the show. If the listener could just do one thing to improve their health, what would you recommend that they do?
Oh, wow. Hilda, I was warned of that question. and I love it. And yet, boy, health is such a comprehensive issue. There's certainly no one single thing, but you ask for one, of course, because we're talking about clay, I should say they should eat clay, right?
Yeah.
No, clay's really good, but I wouldn't say it's number one. I would say avoid processed foods as much as realistic. Eat as close to a natural diet, what our grandparents ate, as much as practical. And I say practical because in our society, most of us can't totally avoid. But I would say, avoid processed foods, drink lots of water, eat clay, and read the Bible and follow the commandments.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Neal. On behalf of the Weston A. Price Foundation, it has been a pleasure talking with you today.
It's been a joy for me. If people want to contact me through my website, theweeatclay.com, be glad to answer questions. If they want hard copies of the book, I mail those out, or the PDF version right from the website.
Sounds good. And we will see you at the conference in October.
I'll be there. I hope a lot of your listeners are. Take care. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Our guest today was Neal Bosshardt. Visit his website, weeatclay.com, for more information and to find his PDF. And I'm Hilda Labrador, the host and producer of this podcast on behalf of the Weston A. Price Foundation. You can find me at holistichilda.com. And for the transcript for today's episode, visit our website, westonaprice.org, and click on the podcast page. And now for a recent review from Apple Podcasts. I want to know from you, is this true? Sean John 22 says this: if you're a woman, then this is a great show for you, as they almost exclusively focus on women's issues. Is that true? Let us know. Leave us your own review. I'm super curious. Or email us at info@westonaprice.org and give us your feedback on the show. Or better yet, leave your own review. As I was saying, go to Apple Podcasts, give us as many stars as you want on the ratings and reviews section, and tell us if you think this show is worth listening to, whether you're a man or a woman. And thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you. Stay well, my friend, and remember to keep your feet on the ground and your face to the sun.
On behalf of the Weston A. Price Foundation, thanks for listening. We have many free resources to support you on your health journey. Visit westonaprice.org to find podcasts, articles, videos, and more. You can also find a local chapter near you for help in finding sources of great food. We invite you to support the Foundation's mission of education, research, and activism by becoming a member. Thanks again, and take care. Wise Traditions is a project of the Weston A. Price Foundation for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. The content on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or other healthcare professional. It is not intended to be, nor does it constitute healthcare or medical advice.